actually still quite quiet this morning, and while we sit here, there's not much going on in terms of bird calls. Well, we've got some interesting feedback from one of our viewers called Bulleray. And morning Bulleray, thanks so much for your updates. Apparently, 2 young male lion were seen at the Djuma Dam waterhole camera last night. And Bulleray would like to know if there's any updates as to who they could have been, or if we know what's going on. And to be honest, we don't have a clue, Bulleray. I'm just going to reposition ever so slightly, because this giraffe looked like it didn't want to move for a while. Bulleray, I'm not sure. The tracks of the lion we were following, it looked like a pride. There were some big males in it, and because they crossed deep into Arethusa, I thought that they could potentially have been the Salala breakaway pride, but there's no way of being sure about that, and the only way to find out is by an update that we'll get between the drives from the Arethusa guides. So sadly, we don't have any intelligence as to who they could be, but really interesting that they were seen apparently on the Djuma waterhole cam, 2 young males, and I'm fairly confident that the Salala breakaway pride do have a few young males in it, so that could help piece together the puzzle for us. But there's been a lot of changes in the lion and leopard dynamics in this area over the last few months. So we're all trying to work out what's going on, but it's not very easy because a lot of the time the animals come through our properties before we actually get to see them. And we've got another request on any information that we may have on something else, and that's from Ellen Fowler. Morning Ellen, and I hope you're doing well. Ellen is one of our viewers who follows the leopards very closely within the whole of the Sabi Sands, not just this area we work in, and she's got great insights into where the animals are moving and what they're doing and their ages and their lineage. And Ellen, thanks very much for all the help you provide us with on drives with that information that's so interesting about the leopards of this area. We had a report yesterday that Kunyuma, one of our young male leopards, he's just over 2.5 years old, was seen with a bit of blood. It was actually the night before last that he was seen with blood dripping down onto his stomach, or on his stomach. It wasn't gushing down. And then he was seen the following morning, yesterday morning, by Aubrey, one of the Djuma guides. And Aubrey said that he had a few scratches on his back and a bit of a flap of skin. So he had been in a tussle of sorts, probably with another male leopard. And he hasn't been seen since then, so we've got no further updates on how he's doing. But it's important for me to stress that apparently those injuries didn't seem very bad. It was just indication that he had been a little bit banged up, but nothing too serious as far as I'm aware. Ellen, it would be wonderful to actually see him again and get an update on how he's doing, because we haven't seen him for weeks, and especially after him being in a tussle, it would be wonderful to know. Anyway, let's carry on looking at these beautiful giraffes before they disappear into the thick bush. Good morning, Molly. And Molly would like to know if giraffes' patterns are all different, just like that of zebras. And yes, Molly, they are all slightly different to one another. No different to the spots of a leopard or the stripes of a zebra. And you actually get various subspecies of giraffe. There's 9 different subspecies of giraffe throughout Africa. And my favorite one is the reticulated giraffe. So even though all the giraffes will have slightly different patterns, you do get considerably different patterns between the subspecies. And I'm actually going to get my book out to show you once the giraffe have moved off. My favorite is the reticulated giraffe, which I will show you a bit later. And that oxpecker is doing a great job in trying to glean all the parasites off this giraffe. What an awesome angle this is. These are red-billed oxpeckers. They've got a cousin called the yellow-billed oxpecker that we don't see here very often. They do from time to time come into the Sabi Sands, mainly on the large herds of buffalo. And the tree that this giraffe is now feeding on is called a buffalo thorn tree, and it's important for you to know that it's got a huge amount of thorns on it, both hooked thorns and straight thorns, which make it a little bit more difficult for the giraffe to go about feeding. And you can see it's trying to be as careful as possible with that long tongue. And you'll typically find that the thorny plants are the ones with the tasty leaves, and that's why they've developed this security system in the form of thorns, making it more difficult for the herbivores to pluck off the leaves. But as you can see, this giraffe is making very easy work of it, delicately wrapping its tongue around the leaves almost individually. That way, avoiding the thorns. What an awesome view we're having here. And we don't get to see giraffe as often as we'd like to, so this is a real bonus. You can clearly see now those ossicones are fully haired on the top, and a male, if we were looking at it this angle from behind, we would clearly see 2 patches of skin on the top of those little horn-like structures. Perfect morning sunlight shining on her. We couldn't ask for much more. It's incredible how flexible that long neck is. She's quite a young female, I think. I think she's going to grow a little bit taller. The other one was considerably bigger, so this one's still got a little bit of growth, I think, before she gets to her full size. We've got now she's stretching up a little bit higher to get to the believes that almost all other animals other than elephants won't be able to reach, and that makes them very fortunate, I guess, in that they don't have much competition in terms of the area in which they browse of the trees. Good morning, Elaine in Long Island, and welcome on board with us. Elaine would like to know how old I think these giraffes are. I would guess that the individual we've just been looking at now is about 3 or 4 years old, and the other one fully grown. How old, it would be a complete guess, but they live for a long time, up to about 20 years. And it's typically the larger animals that do have longer lifespans, so giraffe and buffalo do live for a bit longer than the smaller herbivores that we get out here. And Elaine would also like to know, why is it that there are two females with no youngsters? And it could be that the younger one is not yet sexually mature, and the older one could well have had a baby in the summer months of November, December or January, when they typically give birth. But she could have lost it to predators. And sorry, I just thought I heard something there. So I think that's what's happened. I think she would have just lost her previous calf to predators. And even leopard can kill baby giraffe. Male leopard, like Tingana that you just had a brief glimpse of earlier this morning, have been known to kill baby giraffe, and lion will certainly make short work of a baby giraffe if they get the opportunity. So even though they're born with a height of about 2 meters, they lack the experience and speed and skill to evade predators. Good morning, Samantha, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. Samantha would like to know if giraffe make any noises, and typically no, they don't. So they only communicate. The giraffe don't, so it is really interesting. But they obviously communicate through their senses, like their sight and their smell, and read into whether females are coming into season simply from the pheromones being given off and the smell that comes with that. Okay, well, that was a great sighting, and I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. A pleasant surprise. When looking for leopard, you found the giraffe. So there's a road just coming up ahead here where Tingana, the male leopard seen earlier on drive very briefly, could have popped up onto. So we're going to check there, and if we don't have any luck, then we'll come up with another plan. And it's not uncommon for plans to change constantly whilst on safari, and you can start your morning before you've even left the base saying, well, I'm going to go here and you go and check there. And just like this morning, I just left and came across the lion tracks, so had to change course and ended up heading into Arathusa, which was the opposite direction I planned on going. Here we've got a great opportunity to show you a very, very pretty bird. It's all I don't know if I've stopped in the best place, but we'll see how that looks. It would have possibly been better if I had blue sky in the background. But look at this for an absolutely exquisite bird. It's a very cold lilac-breasted roller, and you can see how it's got all of its feathers ruffled up. Well, it did. Oh, what's it doing? Has it found something? No, it just wanted to go and land on another perch. Okay, well, from the very cold lilac-breasted roller, we're going to head across to Byron and see how he's been doing and get any updates on his morning since you last saw him, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Hi again everyone, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those giraffe with Scott. Always wonderful to see giraffe moving through the bush. Beautiful, beautiful, elegant animals. I heard he also got to see a lovely lilac-breasted roller. Amazing bird, so many different colors. I think it's about 7 or 8 different colors on that bird all together. We've been driving around trying to see if we can spot anything else. It's been a little bit quiet for the last 20 minutes or so. A few more steenbok running around. But after this morning, after this morning's excitement, it's nice to think about everything that happened and try to work out reasons for this male leopard to come wandering into a hyena den site. But what an incredible sight. So fantastic to see. And again, I mentioned earlier, I love doing this so much because you never know what you're going to see or what you're going to or what's going to happen. You know, the bush has the ability to surprise you all the time, which is just so exciting. Really enjoying my first drive with all of you this morning. It's great to be able to share this with people from all over the world. Morning, Georgianne from Illinois. Georgianne asked an interesting question regarding the leopard that came in this morning, that we saw this morning. We think is a leopard named Tingan, and he's potentially trying to take over territory from a leopard who's dominant on this Djuma area in Vula. And Georgianne's question is, how far would the male leopard who's pushed out of a territory move, and if he would hang around on the perimeter of the new male's territory? It's an interesting question, Georgian, and fortunately, as I mentioned before, I have worked in this area for many years and have been fortunate enough to see a lot of leopard activity and behavior. Often what happens is when an older male is challenged by a younger male and that leopard is then pushed out, occasionally just to go through the bit of the process, what happens is these males, if they meet up on the border of their territory, or one male comes into the territory of another male who may be challenging for their territory, what often happens is it's more of a display than an actual fight. They will walk up and down, they salivate a lot, they growl, they scent mark. All of these signs are signs to intimidate the other leopard, to try and push him out without fighting. I mentioned earlier with the hyena and how the leopard would avoid confrontation with the hyena. Same with other leopards. Leopards do not want to get injured, so there's no reason for him to try and fight if he has other means of chasing a leopard out. It's as to how far they would go, this is a bit tricky. If old males get pushed out by younger males or new males coming into their territory, what will often happen is those leopards become nomadic. So they will just constantly move around trying to avoid other leopards and other big males' territories. So he may linger on the perimeter of the new leopard who has come into the territory, on his territory, and kind of try and find a space where a dominant male doesn't really occupy that area. Or they may move up to 10, 20 kilometers away. It all depends. But as I mentioned, they are nomadic, so they'll move around a lot, just trying to avoid other leopards. Or if there's potentially a place or an area where there isn't a dominant leopard, maybe use that as a territory as such, even though they are reaching the end of their lifespan and probably not that territorial anymore. Really starting to warm up here this morning. The sun's shining down on us. Such a beautiful day. And it's really warming up. This always reminds me of a really funny story with a friend of mine who was also a guide. He was out one winter's morning, and as we know, and you can see how covered we are, we've got layers on. I had gloves on this morning, and they were out on a morning drive, and it was very chilly. The blankets were out, the hot water bottles, everything you need to stay warm on a game drive, or morning safari. And they stopped and they were watching giraffe, very much like Scott was doing earlier. And he was talking to the guests about what was going on, but while this was going on, the sun was warming them up, and it really is so peaceful out here, especially with this warm sun beating down on you on a cold. It's such a wonderful feeling. And it's quiet on the and all.
Welcome back everyone, and apologies for the cuts away from Byron, but he lost signal, and it couldn't have happened at a better time, because look what we've just stumbled upon. And we drove past this road minutes ago, just before you left us, and now we've come back hoping to find the leopard, and it just goes to show how things can change so quickly. Both kudu and zebra have arrived out of the thick bush into this small open clearing, and it could well have just been the leopard that did the same thing, but I'm happy that we've come across the zebra and the kudu. And again, when you find animals that you're not looking for, like we have now, it provides us with a great opportunity to enjoy other beauty that exists out here, but importantly it also allows us to listen. While we don't have the vehicle running, we can enjoy the prospects of hearing some clues that may be given to us by the bush. I'm just going to try and reposition ever so slightly and get us a bit closer. Oh no. I drove over a little branch, and when they heard that branch break, they all shot off. There's quite a few zebra here on the fringe of this thicket. Oh, look at this! Beautiful. We've been really fortunate in that this dazzle of zebra have been spending quite a lot of time here on Djuma, and it's an animal like the giraffe rather, that we don't get to see very often, and they're not very highly populated in this area of the Sabi Sands because of the lack of short open grassy plains, which is the habitat they prefer. And the same male leopard that you may have got a glimpse of earlier if you were with us on the first part of the drive, Byron managed to get a glimpse of a male leopard, and that same male leopard in November actually had a zebra kill not far from where we are here. It was a zebra foal, but it's not very common in this area to see leopard with zebra kills. In all my time in the Sabi Sands, I've never seen that. And zebra will even be known to chase leopard and bite them and kick them if they do get caught out by the zebra. So the roles can be reversed, and zebra can give leopard a hard time, but no different to lion and buffalo, I guess. Lion will occasionally kill buffalo, and buffalo in the same breath will occasionally kill lion. I saw an incredible photographic sequence that was taken fairly recently of one old male lion and one big old male buffalo having a battle, and it went on for hours, them both trying to kill one another, and the buffalo ended up winning. I'm just going to creep forward again. There's a really nice scene that is hidden by some bushes that I'm going to try and sneak us into. Well, sadly they all appear to be heading off into some quite thick bush. Although, as I said that, they all appeared to have popped out into a little clearing again. Not uncommon for different species of animals to move together through the bush, and it just increases their safety because there's more eyes and ears. They all collectively are essentially working against the predators, and There was even one or two impala that I saw in and amongst the zebra and kudu. And it appears like the kudu are leading the way and the zebra are following. Oh, and a little oxpecker has just popped into the scene. And you can imagine how ticklish and almost intrusive it must be to have a little bird digging for ticks in your ear. If the kudu can resist the initial reaction to chase the oxpeckers away, it'll allow the oxpeckers to get at ticks that the kudu would have no way of removing itself. And what a beautiful scene this is. The zebra and the kudu enjoying the morning sunshine here. And a lot of beautiful scenes we are having this morning. The birds seem to be coming alive as it warms up, and there's certainly more bird chatter that we can hear at the moment, so it's turning out to be a wonderful, wonderful morning here, full of life at Djuma. And I hope you all enjoying being on board with us on this sunrise adventure. As it becomes drier into the winter, you'll find the herbivores having to really search for their food. As we can see with this individual, it's really getting in and amongst those dry, dead branches, looking for any remaining morsels of goodness. And it's going to be a tough winter for the herbivores. We didn't get nearly enough rain, or nearly as much rain as we usually do in our summer months. And it's definitely fair to say that it's drier and more harsh than it would normally be at this time of the year, which is good prospects for the predators, because it's going to be, or there will be, a lot more easy pickings as the herbivores lose condition towards the end of winter. Just going to reposition now to allow Phil a chance to try and show you this kudu. There's a little black bird sitting up to the right of where the kudu is, and it's a bird that will often follow the kudu, and we'll watch closely in the area of the kudu for, that's the oxpecker that Phil's found now, but there's another blackbird called the fork-tailed drongo up to the right that will follow large herbivores knowing that they will chase up little bugs and insects and be able to fly down and catch them. So there's a chance that this little drongo may pop into screen at any moment, swooping down to catch some prey. Good morning, Anna Marie, and thanks for sending your question through. Anna Marie would like to know if the same reason why these zebra and kudu are hanging around now, from a safety point of view, they feed on completely different food sources. The kudu are predominantly browsers, eating leaves, but at this time of year they will potentially eat grass. There's the fork-tailed drongo, whereas the zebra are grazers. They'll eat short grass, and that's all they'll feed on, so they're not competing with one another. Zebra and wildebeest, on the other hand, are actually looking for very similar food sources, and it's the wildebeest that prefer the slightly, well, they don't prefer, but they will eat slightly longer grass, and zebra then can come and eat the much shorter grass thereafter, so that's why they can be seen together fairly often. And a lot of that, Anna Marie, is also simply because they like the same habitat, so it's a combination of them both feeding on very similar food sources, and yes, they will enjoy extra eyes and ears to help with increased safety. So a very similar scenario, and that is why, like Anna Marie has pointed out, you often do see zebra and wildebeest together. That was also the case here in our summer months. We saw them spending a lot of time in the same areas, but now a lot of the wildebeest have moved off, as well as the zebra, except for this little dazzle that we've been seeing hanging around here. I'm sure this fork-tailed drongo is going to fly off at any second because the kudu has moved a little bit further away from it, so it's not going to be able to fly down and hawk any insects when it's that far away. They typically stay within a few meters of them, but maybe the drongo, oh, there we go. So now it's just flown up to where the kudu is, and we'll be able to show you that now. So now it's much closer by. You can see it up in the tree to the left of the kudu, and well, now it's maybe going to find another animal to go and sit with. Well, who knows why it flew off, but they do typically follow very closely. Dark-speck is just going along for a ride now, and has probably also had enough to eat for the time being, is now enjoying a ride on the kudu. Oh, well, the fork-tailed drongo might well have been flying out towards some other animals, because as you can see, some kudu have just come running into shot. And they came running from the direction that fork-tailed drongo flew in, so that would explain why it left the one kudu in the hope of finding another animal to flush its prey from the grass. And just like that, 3 more oxpeckers have arrived on this one kudu, and I think they flew off the kudu that were running past. Okay, well, from this beautiful setting here, I think it's going to be a good idea for you to jump on board with Byron, as he's about to arrive at a waterhole where there could be a lot of action as well. So over to Byron, and we'll see you a bit later.
Again, everyone. Sorry, I think we seem to have lost you earlier. With a bit of signal, we did go down into a drainage line. It was quite steep, but it's perfect timing because Scott showed you those wonderful zebra and some kudu. It's always lovely to see kudu walking through these areas. Getting back to the story I was telling you about the guests and sitting on the back and warming up in the sun and on a cold morning drive, and while the guide was explaining the giraffe which they were viewing, just much like Scott was doing earlier, he said it got quite quiet, and he turned around to see how the guests were doing, and they had all fallen asleep. I think the warmth of the sun and the peacefulness of the bush just put them into a very relaxing state, and they all dozed off quietly, and they sat for another 20 minutes and then carried on going. We've just come to check one of the water holes. Just spotted some antelope. There we go. Some nyala. Definitely one of my favorite antelope in this area. They are very, very beautiful antelope, and generally quite relaxed. They are heading towards the water hole now, and all animals, when they do get closer to a dam or a water hole and they're looking to drink, they are very, very wary and very careful, because a lot of the time predators do like to hang around close to water, because they know animals are bound to come drink at some point. But all animals are just always very careful and extra alert when they are walking towards water. And 2 beautiful female nyala. One thing I find so fascinating about these antelope is how different the male and female are. The male has got a very, very dark coat, and these female are this light reddish brown coloration. But on both species, or both male and female, these stripes are very, very prominent. Beautiful bird life around here too. There's 1 or 2 tiny birds fluttering about in a tree very close to us, just off to the left. See if Andrew can try focus in on it. This little one, a beautiful black and white little bird. We got it. There we go. Look at that. It's a chin spot batis. Chin spot batis, beautiful little bird, and it's got an interesting call. I always find it really entertaining and funny when someone tries to do a bird call, and I'm not very good at it, but the call of the chin spot batis sounds like it's saying 3 blind mice, which is an old fairy tale. We obviously we all know fairy tale, not fairy tale, the old song 3 blind mice. As you growing up as a child, remember learning it at school, but and we go 3 blind mice, something like that. But as I said, my bird calls are not very good. There we go, there's a lovely blacksmith lapwing. It's wading through some of the water and drinking a little bit. Not sure if you just heard that call. It was a grey go-away bird. I'm not sure who decides on some of the names of the birds, but the grey go-away bird is part of the Turaco family, and it just flew past and gave off a bit of a call. But it sounds like, a lot of the time when it does call, it sounds like he is saying, go away, go away. So that is where the name grey go-away bird comes from. There we go. See that beautiful crest? Even though it's quite uniform grey colour, it's still a beautiful bird. These amazing calls. And they do in fact warn you if there are predators around. And that's kind of where the go away call or sound, or how people thought it originated or why it does that, is it would warn you if there are predators, and it would say go away, almost warning you that there's potential danger around. They often will call if they do. I've seen it a couple of times with leopard walking through the bush, and if you've only just joined us, we managed to see a leopard briefly this morning, so it's quite interesting. But with leopard walking through the bush, you can get these grey go-away birds flying in above them or sitting in a tree close by and giving that alarm call. A lot of animals or birds will alarm call at a predator. Even if there isn't a direct threat, they would still alarm call purely because it is a predator and that it needs to, or they try to get it away from them because it is danger. Oh, there's another really beautiful bird off to the right. Lower it down. Let's see if Andrew can get it. There we go. Beautiful red face. It's a black-collared barbet. Black-collared barbet. Beautiful red face, but you can see that very clear black band around the throat or the collar. And that's obviously how it gets its name, black-collared barbet. These birds are really interesting. When they call, it sounds like it's one bird calling, but it's actually a duet. It is always a duet. A male and female will call together. The one bird will make a single sound, and immediately after the other one makes a sound. And it happens so quickly, it sounds like it's a single bird making that call, but it's actually two of them, which I find very interesting. always lovely to come and sit at these water holes and do a bit of birding, or just waiting to see if any animals head down for a drink. As we said, the sun's quite high at the moment, so it's starting to warm up, and I'm sure during the course of the day animals will come down to drink at any one of the water holes around here. And it's so great, as I mentioned, to be back in this area and to be on these drives with you. The Sabi Sands is such a special area. It's such a wonderfully beautiful area and part of the greater Kruger Park, as I'm sure you all know. And it's so nice to be able to drive and track and follow wildlife in this area and spend time with them. And those of you who have just kind of joined us, if you are wondering who this new face on your screen is, I'm Byron, doing one of my first drives here with you, and it's been a great morning so far. Good morning, Kira, in Italy, all the way from Italy. Kira has just asked if, and regarding the Inyala, which we saw earlier, if there's an easy way to identify the difference between female Inyala and female bushback. I've got a book here quickly, which it's always a lot easier, I find, to explain when you've got a visual aid, and to show the difference between the Inyala and the bushback. Just quickly, if I can, just give you a bit of background on the Inyala and the bushback. So it's not uncommon for people to get confused between these antelope. Actually, there are three antelope which are quite similar: the kudu, the Inyala, and the bushback. And the reason for this is they actually form part of the same tribe. They're all very closely related. And if you have a look at the kudu, Inyala, and the bushback, they all have got very clear white markings on the body. The males all have spiral horns, or the kudu obviously have those big, almost corkscrew-like horns which twist and turn. But the male Inyala and the male bushback all have a slight twist in their horn and a turn. So that's one reason. And the markings, the white markings, is another reason. So they all look quite similar. What I'm going to do is, if I hold this up here, and if we can get Andrew just to zoom in a little bit.
Put them more in the middle in the light.
Isn't that okay? There we go. So this is the picture of the Inyala, and as you can see, just with the female again, as we saw earlier, reddish brown coloration with these very clear white markings on the body. And then if you have a look at the male a little higher up, you can see how different they are. The male's got this reddish brown coloration just on the lower part of the leg, but very grey body, or dark grey, but you can see those white stripes, and a very hairy male. The males have got quite a lot of hair hanging down, very beautiful. And you can see, again, as I mentioned with the horns, that turn and that little twist that goes up. So that's one of the reasons why they are part of that family. But Kara, let me just get back to your question again with the bushback and the difference. The bushback here, the lower part of the bushback. And hopefully this helps you a little bit. And you can see the bushback, firstly, size-wise, the bushback is quite a bit smaller than the Inyala. But have a look at the white markings on the body of the female bushback. You can see they are mainly dots. There are no stripes on the bushback. So the first thing that would give it away is with the Inyala, the females and the males have got very, very prominent white stripes down the body, whereas with the bushback there are no stripes. You have these dots over and around the side, especially around the rump area of the animal. And if we look a little bit to the right over here, you can see the male, and you can see the male is also much darker, and you can see those horns which turn a slight bit, not as much as obviously not as much as the kudu, and not as big as the Inyala, but have a look also, just a few white dots down the side of the body, no stripes at all on the side. So hopefully that answers your question and makes it a bit easier for you to identify in future. There we go. The female Inyala has just come out into the open again. You can see the ears constantly moving, listening. They're very, very alert antelope. And because Inyala like to move through thickets, they've got to rely on that sense of hearing. Just a reminder, this the waterhole we are sitting at is the Djuma waterhole, and there is a live camera on the other side of the waterhole, so you can tune in anytime and see what makes its way down to the waterhole, especially in the evenings. And apparently this morning on Twitter we did hear that 2 young male lions came down to drink here very, very early this morning. So that's again, you never know what you're going to see, and it's worth checking every now and then. And thank you very much for all those updates we do receive on Twitter. It's always wonderful to know if our viewers have been tuning in and have been watching some of these water holes, and they let us know if they've seen anything, so that we can head straight there and try follow up in the morning on our sunrise drives. Just scanning a little bit more in the thickets. You never know. Often, and I've had this a few times where we've sat at a water hole for an hour or two, just relaxing and enjoying the bird life, and all of a sudden you notice something that you didn't see, and it could be as big as a leopard or a lion lying in the shade of a tree somewhere close by. It's always good just to scan and listen. You can see, watch how careful this Inyala is. See, constantly scanning and being very, very careful and watching. And just a reminder again, if you've got any questions or any comments you'd like to send through to us, just if you're on Twitter, hashtag Safari Live. Alternatively, you can email us on questions@WildEarthTV.com. WildEarthTV. Just had a comment from a friend of mine, and as I mentioned, we probably have quite a few new viewers this morning. I made sure that I told a lot of my old guests and friends that I would be on this morning and try and get more of them to share these wonderful mornings with us. And so hello to Warwick. I'm sure he's stuck to his computer watching with us.
And all of the birds and nyala and action that he's been sharing with you at the Djuma waterhole. And like Byron said a little bit earlier, they are believed to have 8 different colors. Now there will be varying opinions on this, but as you can see, this bird does have an array of different colors, and you can all count for yourself and see how many you can come up with. But what a great view we've got. You'll also notice it's quite windy, and you can tell this by its feathers blowing as well as how it's using its tail to maintain balance as the wind does increase. And they've got those beautiful long streamers on the end of their tails. Absolutely beautiful. Still, despite the sun being quite high up, the cool air with this wind is keeping it quite fresh and crisp this morning, and that's why I think this lilac-breasted roller is so relaxed with us being nearby, because it would rather stay here on its perch and bask in the sun than fly off. And we often get spoilt in winter with close-up sightings of birds like this with their feathers all puffed up. It's my mother's favourite bird, so I hope she's watching this, because we don't get much better views than this. We are still in the general area where Tingana, the male leopard, was seen earlier by Byron. But there's been no further clues as to where he could have gone. He could be nearby to where Byron last saw him. There's been no clear sign of him crossing any of the roads that surround the block that he was in. Well, Nikki in Final Control says she's counted 7 colours, and she's interested to know if any of you, the viewers, have managed to count 8. Have you got 8 there, Phil?
Black is a colour.
Well, Phil says black is possibly the one colour that Nikki might be missing. And I'll be interested to know all of the exact terms for the different colours, because technically there are very precise terms for precise colours, and like I said, I'd be interested to know what exactly these colours are. The colour on the top of its head would be one of the most difficult ones for me to identify. It's a greenish tinge, but green is certainly not the colour that is on the back of the head, but there's a very slight green tinge, and I'm not sure what the exact correct name for that greenish colour is.
I've got yellow, green, red, brown, blue, turquoise, black. white.
There will be white on it under its wings, certainly, so that also may be a colour, and also on its head there are those little white speckles and flecks under its chin.
And blue.
Yeah, blue and turquoise are two more colours. The lilac in front, which it's given its name after, I guess, is another sure colour. That electric turquoise on the end of their wings and at the base of its tail are absolutely electric.
The early hours of the morning, and I think if they just came down to drink, possibly had a drink and then continued moving on. But we'll definitely keep an eye out in this area and see if we don't find any new tracks. Oh, amazing. We've got a beautiful saddle-billed stork that has just flown in. Look at that. Really beautiful bird. Look at that beak, just incredible. And you can see that clearly now, that really yellow saddle on the top of the beak, and that's how it gets its name, the saddle-billed stork. Very prominent yellow saddle, what looks like a saddle on top of the beak there. Really beautiful bird, and they'll come down to these water holes, wade through the water, and they'll catch anything from fish to frogs. Stick that long beak in the water, wait for something to swim past, and then grab it. They're very, very quick, and their eyesight's great, that they can see into this dirty water, and they'll often feel with their feet as they're moving along. So they can pick up on any movement. The one that we are looking at the moment, and I'm not sure if you can see clearly, but this is a female. And how I know this is that if you look closely, she's got a very, very yellow eye. Very yellow eye. The male has got a black eye. When I say yellow eye, she's got a very prominent yellow ring around the eye. The male saddle-billed stork has got a very dark eye, very black. There's no yellow around the eye, but he has got a yellow wattle. So the wattle would be just this little part of skin that hangs close to the throat, so directly under the beak. So this is the female. I'm going to possibly move on from here now. I think Scott has got something quite interesting he'd like to show you. So let's cross back to Scott, and we'll see what else we can find around here.
Welcome back, everyone, and it appears that the water holes on Djuma are providing us with some great action this morning. I heard the parrot-like green pigeon flew off just before you got to Byron, but a saddle-billed stork came in and saved the day. A really beautiful bird, and we also got a glimpse of one flying past earlier this morning. And the zebra have come down for a quick drink. We actually saw their tracks coming down here, so increased the tempo in order to ensure we don't miss them. And what a beautiful sight it is. There's also a few impala, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reposition quickly and try and get you the whole scene here at the waterhole, and that'll be best viewed from the dam wall, which we will be at very shortly. There's apparently an adult with a young hyena, honey badger, so I'm certainly going to keep my eyes peeled for those. Look at how beautiful this is. And again, safety in numbers is being shown to us here, both the impala and the zebra making the most of one another's senses. And while some are drinking, others are heads up looking around. How they work that out is possibly just through default, I'm not too sure, but it does bode well for their safety. You could possibly hear the gentle drumming of a woodpecker off in the distance. The oxpeckers are calling. There's a few on the zebra and the impala. And while we watch the impala closest to us drinking, it's displaying its metatarsal glands, which are the two little black blobs on its heels, very well. And there was a question a few days ago about these glands, and they are unique to the impala in terms of the animals of this area. And as they run off and bombshell and scatter, if they are chased by anything, these glands will leave a scent trail so that the herds can follow the trail back to one another after they've regrouped after their fright. Absolutely beautiful. They're not going to hang around here. They've all now finished their drink and are moving off to possibly better grazing and also areas where they feel safer. This essentially is a high risk area for any of the herbivores. And there's just one or two more impala getting their last few sips in before I'm sure they too will follow the rest of this bachelor herd. Oh, look at that young impala showing a little bit of interest towards the blacksmith lapwing as it walked past. I thought it was almost going to chase it off at one stage, which is the little black and white bird we can see on the water's edge. Quite nice to see the difference in size and shape of horns between a younger and slightly older impala. The one on the right would have been born at the end of 2013, in November or December of 2013, and the other one possibly a year or two before that. Look at how cautious they have to be, and they've obviously got a bit of a feeling now. They're not feeling safe anymore, so enough's enough. It looks like it hurriedly wants to catch up with the rest of the herd that's all moved off now. Thankfully though, his friends have almost been waiting for him. And now they can move off together. Although the youngster on the bottom of your screen looks like it wants one more sip of water before moving off. Well, what a morning it's been. Action-packed. Oh, one last thing I'm going to possibly ask Phil to try and show you. There's a bataleur soaring up in the distance. It could turn towards us, which should make for some great views. At the moment it's heading a bit away and it's a bit far, but it could turn towards us. I always love watching the birds of prey soaring above us and get very envious of their ability to float above this beautiful ecosystem that we get to play around in. But it's sadly veered off too far to appreciate their beauty. They teeter from side to side, the bataleurs. It's one of the identifying features that help us to identify them, even if they're very, very long way away. They've got their very distinctive teetering from side to side, and that's because they've got an extremely short tail. There we go, you can see it almost as if it's unbalanced, and it's that short tail that doesn't lend it much stability like the other birds of prey. Great, well, like I said earlier, we've had action-packed morning with so many different animals and birds, and I hope you've all enjoyed the action. On safari, he's a great guy, and I have no doubt that you've been having a good time. Oh, look at this. Awesome. This looks like a little gabar goshawk, and we seldom get this close to them. Absolutely awesome. It's quite a small raptor, not much bigger than a grey go-away bird, which is a bird that we see fairly often. And what I'll do is I'll pull it up in the book quickly to show you it just before we go across to Byron. Really, really pretty little bird of prey, and because it has disappeared into the thick vegetation, I am just going to show you in the book quickly, and then Byron's got something interesting that he would like to, well, there it goes, that he would like to show you before the end of the show. So here at the top right is the gabar goshawk, and it's got that distinctively grey head and striped or barred chest that we saw. So another bird to add to the list from this morning's array of different birds, and I hope you've enjoyed your time with us. I certainly have enjoyed having you with us. So, from myself, Scott, and Phil on camera, thanks so much for jumping on our vehicle today, and to Nikki and Eugene and Final Control, thanks to all their help. And I think well done to Byron on his first live drive. It's not easy, and there's a lot of changes relative to normal guiding that take a bit of getting used to, but I'm sure he's nailed it. And over to him. We will see you next time.
Welcome back, everyone. We've just found something very interesting. Let's see if I can get a clear view of it for you. Two side-striped jackal moving through the long grass. They're a little bit skittish, but hang on a second. Let's just see what we can do here. There we go. Let's get them moving. Can you see them? Look at that beautiful side-striped jackal. And you don't see these very often in this area. They are around, but they are very shy. And as you can see, a little nervous of the vehicles, but how amazing is that to see them moving around this time of day? There's still the one running around there. There we go. Look at that bushy tail and that very clear stripe down the side of the body. We only have two jackal in Southern Africa, the black-backed jackal and the side-striped jackal. And the side-striped we seem to see in the Sabi Sands quite a lot. As you move in further into the greater Kruger, you tend to see a lot more black-backed jackal. But that's something really interesting, fantastic. So, gee, what a great morning and what a start for me. It's been amazing sharing this experience with all of you. Thank you for all your questions and for all the input from our viewers. It's a completely new experience for myself, but it's been so much fun. And I mean, what a start. So with the leopard and the hyena this morning, to the side-striped jackal, the bird life at the waterhole. It really has been, it's been a lot of fun, and thank you to everyone. A big thank you to Nikki and Eugene at Final Control, and to Andrew. A huge thank you to Andrew for all his help this morning. Our trusty cameraman was full of advice and help this morning, and I look forward to seeing you all this afternoon again. It's been as I said, fantastic morning, and hopefully our luck continues through to this afternoon on our sunset drive. So we will say farewell, and we'll see you all later.